Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation. It is Monday night all over again, and we are here with literacy and books and conversation. My name is Donna Gray Banks. I am your host, and this evening I have Dr. Guy Thompson, author of the Bumblebee Bumble. Bumbles, is that with an S or no S?
A bumblebee will bumble.
A Bumblebee Will Bumble. Welcome, Dr. Guy Thompson, to Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation. Thank you for being here this evening.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a great honor.
Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation is brought to you by Eyeless Diamonds LLC, Lee's Press, Milton McCulloch, author of Love and Emancipation, a Dante production, which will feature David Sylvester at Cinematique on October 8th at 2 p.m. Tickets are on sale now. And the Fresh Book Festival, which will be held in the beautiful city of Daytona Beach, 22, 23, 24 February in the year 2024. So thank you. Registration is open. Please come join us. It is going to be a fabulous year. This is our 13th year. We are going to knock it out the park. So come register. If you have any questions for Guy, leave them in the chat room. And good evening, Guy. Please give us a brief background.
Yeah, once again, thank you. A brief background. I grew up in Washington, D.C., went to Howard University. Last year, I was the editor of their school newspaper. Was also involved in the ROTC while there and wound up doing 24 years in the Air Force, wow. Retiring from there in 2004. Came to Palm Coast, got involved in real estate. I was a top producer in real estate for a while, but I always wanted to get back into writing and books and communications and the media. So 18 years later, I was able to do that, to do that full time, and here I am today.
It is a process. I mean, because life gets in the way, right? And you start. So yeah, we all understand that. So you spent how many years in the military? 23?
Yeah, 23, 24 years in the military. Retired as a lieutenant colonel. From there, was involved in public affairs, which I worked with the news media. I worked with the newspapers and television stations and that kind of stuff.
I'm always interested in how people get to Palm Coast, because it's not like, oh, you wake up and say, I really want to live in Palm Coast. So did you have a connection here? Did you have parents here? How did you get
there? Yeah, the last one. I had my mother and sister, disabled sister, were both here. And I wanted to come and be able to help them out. And I always wanted to live somewhere warm anyway. So it worked out. It was a win-win.
Worked out well, yeah. Absolutely. I moved here because my parents were here. They both transitioned. But once you get here, you got to get stuck, right? Because the weather. And the beach is, 15 minutes away? So I certainly understand that. So tell us when and why you began writing and who was your inspiration?
Well, I began writing as a kid. I didn't know I was writing. I just liked making up stories. So I kept on doing it. And one day I took one of my stories into school. The teacher saw it, she read it, and she said I was a good writer, which was the first time I was about maybe 8 or 9 years old when she told me that. And then throughout the years, I would receive compliments on my writing. So it just kind of naturally, something told me, well, God's trying to tell you this is what you're good at. So try to stick with it. So in school, I majored in journalism because I wasn't really, I didn't think back then, this is back in the 70s. You know, I knew back then you had to have an agent, you had to do certain things to get a book, and you know, 1,000 books being written every year. I mean, that never saw the light of day. It was really a convoluted struggle, I think, for the average person. And I always say, I hope for the day when it becomes easier and the average person can get their book published. And lo and behold, here we are in the 21st century, and people can self-publish themselves or go to Amazon directly and publish their own works.
Did your mother ever tell you, you know, if you're going to be a writer, you won't eat? You have to
Yes.
get a good government job, right?
Yeah, my mother and father both told me that, which is why I was in the military.
Right? Exactly. What do you mean you're going to be a writer? Go get a government job. Stay there 25 years. Yeah, we had the
Yeah.
same story back in the day.
Oh
So,
yeah, absolutely.
well, I mean, listen, it wasn't a bad story. It got us where we are today. So,
Right.
but I really sometimes think that I could have taken a couple of lefts or right, just a little bit of deviation might have been nice, but stayed the course. So talk about your genre and why you chose
My genre was fiction.
it. Mm-hmm.
I chose it because my writing, I like to write about things I see in real life, but I don't take it from one person. I'll see separate things in life, which I think are very interesting. Then I try to weave it into a story. So that's where the fiction part comes in. I have to manipulate certain things to make everything fit just right. And and if something's embarrassing, I don't want to embarrass anybody, so I change all the names and everything else. So yeah, so that's my. I don't know if I made that up. I think a lot of people do that though. They say they're writing fiction, but a lot of things come from their real life.
Oh, yeah. Well, you have to have a point of contact, right?
Right.
You have to have some reference in order to even decide to write about some reference or research. You're going to have to do one of the R's, right? It has to be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And with fiction, unfortunately, you have to kind of do both,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah, you kind of have to do both. So you decided to self-publish, and who did you self-publish with?
Well, I call it self-published, but I did say that I just created my own publishing company.
Okay.
Not only I just recently released my own book, but the last 2 years I've published books for about 3 or 4 other people through my company called Faith Entertainment and Publishing. So and basically I get them on Amazon, and if they want, we help market their books, and of course edit and format and kind of hold their hands along the way if needed. But
So what tell us about that process? Now a lot of people tell us we went through Amazon, but do you have to does it have an editor? Does it have a way? I know that you did we'll talk about your cover in a minute, but does it give you the options for covers and editing and format? How does all that work?
yeah, Amazon, they have classes that will teach you how to do a lot of things yourself, but a lot of people find it very difficult to manage and manipulate, and they won't just accept it; they will reject it if it doesn't fit that criteria. So it's very hard. Amazon, they will do everything from editing to design your cover to formatting it for you to publishing it, but it will cost you thousands and thousands of dollars.
Okay, so it's a la carte.
It's a la carte. You can buy a package, but it's still going to be $4,000 or $5,000 or more. Um, I was fortunate. I had kids later in life, in my late 30s, and my kids both are in this field. And my daughter is a computer genius, so she does the
Nice.
formatting and everything. And I have some excellent editors, and I know some great graphic artists, and so it's all coming together. So I call the motto of my company is called giving voice to the voiceless. So I try to be the Walmart of the publishing company, try to offer lower prices than
Right, right.
than anywhere else to help them get their works out.
And so you've had four other authors published or three? What did you
Yes,
say?
yeah, about four
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
other authors, and one is a lady from New Jersey, living here in Palm Coast. She's actually a mental health counselor. I was
Mm.
talking to her. We go to the same church, and talking with her one day, she mentioned that she had written something about 30 years ago and was
Wow.
just in her drawer at home, in her desk drawer. So I asked her, could I read it one day? And a few months later, she finally remembered it, brought it in, and I read it. It was excellent. It was
Wow.
excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was excellent. So I said, hey, I can get this out there for you. And she got it. She was interested in doing that. And, of course, she didn't want to change some things. Of course, she wrote this 30 years ago. We had phone books, so there's phone book references and outdated things in there, but she thought that was charming. So we kept it, we kept
Well, I
that
mean,
in.
if you're writing in a certain era, like I write in the 70s and the 80s, right? So you understand that there,
Yeah,
things that you're not gonna pick up your cell phone because the only
right.
cell phones back then were the ones you carried and they looked like briefcases,
Like,
right? You remember
oh
the
yeah,
ones you throw in the car. But
her
so
story,
if
but
yeah, but if you're writing in a certain era, then you want to have things like phone books. And that's
yeah,
funny you should say that. I received a phone book today and I thought, who does this? It's a yellow paper. Yeah. So I was really surprised to see that come in the mail. I think before yesterday, I think.
oh
So
wow.
tell me about how you write. Do you write in the morning? Do you write in the evening? Do you write at night? When do you write? How do you write? And how long did it take you to complete the book once you decided to do
As far as how, I would say yes to all the above examples she gave.
it?
Sometimes I feel okay in the morning. Sometimes I feel like writing midday, late night. You know, it depends. There's really no set. I thought I was a morning writer, but then I started writing at other times once I got more confident in my writing and my story started shaping, taking form. So some days I wrote just mostly all day. Even I used to write in the beginning. I would only write when I felt inspired.
Hmm.
Right. So I finally realized if I keep waiting until I get inspired, it's going to take me a couple of lifetimes to finish it. So I finally got the mindset that I'm going to treat this as a job, and I'm going to, work certain amount of hours each week or every day until I get it finished.
Is this your only book, or do you have other published?
I have like a dissertation I've done, and I've
Okay.
had tons of, I was in the newspaper field for a while and magazines. So I have a lot of articles I've written, but this is the first book that I have written, and I guess the fifth book that I've published.
And how long did it take you from start to finish?
Oh, to write the book?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Probably about once I got serious about it, about 3 years. But I had the idea for it 20 years ago. But once I
Wow.
once I got serious about it, about 3 years. And I guess one of the mistakes I made in the beginning was I was trying to write a final draft with the first draft. I thought it had to be perfect. I wouldn't go forward until it was perfect. But then I decided I'm just going to start writing, no matter how it sounds, and start writing and get something on paper, and then later on go back and try to fix it up if it needed.
And so, how did you do that? Did you write in scenes? Did you write in chapters? Did you write in outlines? Or did
Yeah.
you have did you start? And the other question is, did you start from the beginning to the end or the end to the beginning? So there's three questions here.
Okay.
You write in scenes, outline, or chapters? And did you start from the beginning to the end or the end to the beginning?
Okay. I started writing in scenes, and then I progressed to writing in chapters. And then once I had some chapters together, I put together an outline of
Oh,
how, yeah, so how the chapters should be flowing.
right.
The way I had it was here and there. I said, okay, I'm going to need to get some organization here. I was letting the story write itself or flow by itself. But after a while, I needed to take control of it, and added some organization to it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What were the other questions?
Oh, the question was, did the story start in the beginning and go to
Oh,
the end, or start in the end and go to the beginning? Because most people say if your ending and your beginning is solid, the middle will take care of itself.
well, that's what happened. I
Okay.
wrote the beginning first, and then wrote the ending, and
Okay.
then I wrote the rest of it. So yeah, and I guess I just did it by instinct. I wasn't really planning it, but
I guess let me rephrase that. So
yeah.
the book, did it start at the beginning and go to the end, or did it start at the end like a murder
Oh,
mystery, like a
like a
murder mystery,
flashback.
right? Here's the body, right? There's blood
Yeah.
everywhere. It's got 5 bullets in it. So then we work our way backwards to how the body got.
I
Okay.
got you.
So yeah.
Yeah, I tried doing like the flashback thing, or
Yeah.
with my editor, she said she wasn't following it too well. So I found someone else, just a regular person to read it, and they said the same thing. So I said, well, until I can get better at this, I'm just going to start with the action and go forward.
Okay. Yeah. And sometimes it's hard to keep track too when you're doing all the flashback stuff, right? And for yourself, even while you're writing, it's hard to
Yeah,
keep track.
yeah. It's even hard to kind of make it come back to the present again.
So now that we know you have an inside track to the cover, thank you very much. Uh, how many renditions did you have before you said this is the one?
There were probably at least 4 or 5 different renditions of it. And so the book is about relationships. It's about
Okay.
the main character, Trey Banfield, and it follows his life from his 20s to the time he's a senior citizen, and all the relationships he's had, good or bad. And he's been divorced 3 times. So he's even has a custody battle with one of the former wives. So, and but not only does it cover with his personal relationships, but also business relationships, family relationships also are in there, and family tragedies and how it kind of changes some families and affects others differently. And he comes from a very good home, but even coming from a very good home, there's some ups and downs within his family.
So what will I as a reader take from it? What did you want us as readers to garner from your book?
Well, the title, "A Bumblebee Will Bumble," it's like, I'll quote the late great Maya Angelou when she says, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them." And a lot of times people will want to make excuses for people or hope they change or think they can change someone. But no, if someone is showing you a certain side, just trust that that's who they are and move, either choose to still deal with that person or not deal with it or go a different path. So the main thing is stay true to who you are. And like the main thing is, if someone shows you who they are, whether you like it or not, believe that's who they really are.
When you were talking about the young man having 3 divorces, was it 3 different types of divorces or were they all kind of the same? Like there was a reason for the divorce was pretty much the same for all 3, or were they very different?
Oh, the 3 divorces were all very different. So it also shows you that, for example, his last divorce was very mutual, amicable, if you can call divorce amicable.
Right, goodbye.
The second one had a custody battle, and the first one, which was his longest marriage, they shouldn't have got married to begin with. So it just shows you different ways. And over the years, I've talked to several people, and their divorces usually end up in one of those 3 categories. So I just wanted to kind of give people, hopefully people can learn from Trey's maybe mistakes or his decisions. And he's also made some very good decisions also. So it's not all bad thing.
Let's talk about the character of the women he decided to be with. What did now most people that I know who have failed relationships and situations and marriages marry the same person every time. Did Trey marry the same person, the type of person,
Yeah,
every time?
well, in the end, he realized that he did.
Okay.
So he went out of his way to make sure he did not do that. But reflecting back, he found out that he actually did marry the same person 3 different times.
3 different times.
Yeah,
And in his journey, did he find revelations out about himself that he changed, or he decided that he's good and he's not going to change?
he found out revelations that made him change.
Okay.
He realized that it wasn't the partners he chose; it was more him. It was him. He had to change.
Where's the book setting?
The book is set in a fictional city in Florida,
Okay.
and then he's in the beginning he's in the military, so he's in different cities.
Mm-hmm.
He's met the three women in three different states. Yeah.
So the book has different shades of gold and or brown. Was that specific for a reason? Or you just like the color?
I just like the color. I like it. I am a member
You have
of
a
the
copy of
album.
the book there so we could see it, by the way? No? Okay, it's okay.
I don't have it.
Okay.
I can't. Yeah. I usually have one here, but
I know, right? It's never where you want it to be.
exactly.
It never is where you want it to be. And how many pages is it?
It's actually about a little over 400 pages.
Okay,
And
it's
I
a
got a
read.
little
Mm-hmm.
prolific. Yeah, there, man.
Take it on a
It's
cruise.
my first one, but now I know how to gauge it and how many pages it should be to make it, because it could have been probably a little bit shorter, but
Did you have a hard time writing your acknowledgments?
it took me about 7 different versions of it, because you don't want to leave anybody out, but then you don't want to put anybody there who shouldn't be there. So yeah, it took me a little time to even write the acknowledgments.
Yeah, I think that's really, really hard, especially when you have people who transition and you don't know. I mean, if you mentioned them with their first book, should you mention them every time? I mean, so
Right, exactly.
you go through that kind of thinking. If you did it once, you have to do it again. And does everybody who touched you that meant something have to be in the book? Right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it took me a long time to do the acknowledgement. This fourth one, just because I thought I don't want to repeat the acknowledgement, but then I don't want to leave anybody out. I'm like, you don't want to leave anybody out, right? So yeah, I agree that it was a challenge to do that. So what's next, Mr. Doctor Guy? What's your
Well,
doctorate in? Did you
it's
tell us? I'm
from
sorry.
education, but it's an organizational leadership,
Okay.
based running a business, basically.
Okay.
Business, and I have a master's in business, so I can tend to like business courses. But
So
next,
what's next? Yeah.
probably going to work on a nonfiction book about the Howard University basketball team back in 1966.
Nah, you can't. Oh man, that okay.
Yeah, and I've talked to a few of the players from back then,
Uh-huh.
and they just so happens that Howard University was interested in someone doing something about that year
Mm.
basketball game. And that's the year they went to the CIAA semifinals, which is like the March Madness for HBCUs, and they lost in overtime to Winston-Salem University, and they had a player named by the name of Earl Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
Dazzling everybody back then, and ended up being a Hall of Famer in the NBA. But
I'm
so
sorry, I was at Georgetown with
with the other John Thompson.
Uptown. I was Uptown. Not
Okay,
downtown.
all right, good. Okay, yeah, they a lot of good years under him.
They had a lot of good years up there. So did
Absolutely.
you is there a player in particular that you want to write about, or like the guy that we interviewed a couple of weeks ago, he kind of chronologically looked back at the is it 8 people on the team? How many people are 6? How many are on the floor?
But 5 on the floor at one time.
5 on the floor at one time. So I think it was 8 that he wrote about and chronicalized
Okay.
their lives, before, after, during basketball. And so, yeah, it was a really, really good story because, where they come from, how they developed as basketball players, and what consequently happened to them afterwards. Was that your feeling, or are you just concentrating on the time frame where they went from this no-name basketball team to the
Yeah,
prime?
basically from the time when they went from the from the basement to near the top.
The
The top of the league.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the end, I will say, I will give some history on what they did afterwards. Yeah, what they did afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good just to kind of tie it all together. Like what happens after basketball. I don't, you remember Chris Washburn? Do you remember
Yeah,
him?
I do.
Yeah. So he was at the book festival, not this year, but last year. And so it's amazing how they tell their stories about where they came from and what developed while they were in college, and then what happened once they got to the NBA, and how some of them really got lost, about
Yeah.
people that they surround themselves with. And so what it is good stories for young men who are trying to reach those pinnacles now. And so if you could tell a story about how to keep out of the alligators,
Right,
the
right,
waters, right? It
right.
really makes a difference.
Yeah.
So, let's go back to your cover. So you said you had how many renditions?
About 4 or 5 different.
And
Say
why?
just trying to help the cover tell a story about what's inside the book. So, like I said, he had 3 ex-wives. There's 2 women on the cover. So I said, well, if one cover had three women, one had just the man, one had the woman with scowls on her face, or just kind of you try to everything from facial expression from the nonverbals that are giving
Okay.
off to everything else. So I just decided to have them just face the camera, face forward, and let the readers make their own mind up what's going on.
So are you taking on new authors?
I am. I
Oh, okay.
definitely am. Those who like publishing. There's a few types of different authors. Some people just want to do a book and pass it out to their family. I can
Right.
help them
Do
do
that.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
others would like to, go worldwide, and we try to help them with that as well.
And so how do they contact you? I guess that we need to get to that point. How do they contact you if they have, and what do they need to have before they come? They have to have their manuscript. Do they have to have, what do they need?
Well, just a willingness to commit. They can have
Mm,
an, but as long as they're willing, I can stay with somebody 2 or 3 years or longer if needed. They have a manuscript. We'll look at it, review it, and make a recommendation
okay.
whether they should just print it for the family or they should try to go
Right.
worldwide.
Yeah, you should
Worldwide.
leave this in-house. I don't think you ought to
Right,
take that
right,
out.
right. So we won't just print anything. So we'll try to work with them and make sure it's quality.
Right. So,
So
Miss Janice, are you on? Would you like to share your anthology information with Dr. Thompson? I think she's still here. Yes.
Yes, I'm here. Uh, yes, we would love for you to participate in our annual anthology. We've got an organization called Read, Write, Share, and we have an annual workshop, annual weekend, but we also have an anthology, and this year is our 6th year for having it. And Miss Donna was one of our anthologists last year.
Yes.
So please think about it, and I'd be happy to send the information, or Donna, you can send the
Absolutely.
information. Okay, we'd love to have you. And I love your book. I want to get a copy of it.
Oh,
thank
nice.
you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And so it's only 2,000 words. So we did this on this call, right? So if you have a shorter story, Dr. Thompson,
Okay.
that you don't have that you want to put into a novel, some stories are best left shortened than long,
Sure.
right? And it just puts another notch in your resume. The people involved in that anthology are awesome. Dr. Janice doesn't really beat her own bandwagon, but she was the diarist of William Jefferson Clinton.
Oh,
And
wow.
we were all in DC at the same time, right? So she has a vast background. Well, everybody here has a vast background, but I think you would enjoy being part of that anthology. And so, to end our conversation, we always ask our guests for a pearl of wisdom. So I'll take that from you now.
I would say, no matter what it is that you're going to do or trying to do, I would say proceed as if success is inevitable. Just go ahead with the confidence that you will get it done.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Thompson? If not, we're going to sign off. Okay. Oh. So thank you for joining us. And again, when the lights go out and the cell phone towers go down, all you have left is a flashlight and a good book. Thank you for being on Zoom and on a Fresh Conversation. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.